A cold wind howled through the large windows of the mansion, carrying diagonal rain that blanketed the entire city of Seattle. Inside, Ethan Sterling, a man in his 40s, was a perfect sculpture of success. He owned a multi-billion-dollar tech empire. But in this moment, all those numbers were meaningless. He stood before the glass, looking out where each raindrop felt like a fresh cut to his heart. His mansion was a gilded cage, luxurious but empty. It reflected his own soul, fortified, cold, and solitary. 6 months ago, a car accident had stolen his daughter Lily's ability to walk, and with it her smile and innocence. Lily now lived in a world of her own where colors were muted and sounds muffled. She could only move around in a motorized wheelchair, and her deep blue eyes held a hollow, lifeless look. Ethan had used every resource, hired the best doctors, but no physical therapy could heal the wounds in Lily's soul. He had once been a cold, decisive businessman, but now he was powerless against a pain that money couldn't soothe. Today was worse than ever. Lily had just gone through another therapy session with no progress. As Ethan's luxury Mercedes pulled up to Sacred Heart Children's Hospital, a nameless anger surged within him. He felt trapped in a perpetual cycle of hope and despair. "Dad, look," a tiny voice from behind him said. It had been a long time since Lily had spoken a complete sentence on her own. Ethan turned his eyes questioning. Lily, her face pressed against the window, pointed her small finger towards the hospital's small garden. There, in the pouring rain, a boy no older than 7 was dancing. The boy's clothes were tattered, his dark hair plastered to his forehead, but that did not diminish the passion in his every move. He wasn't dancing haphazardly, but with a disciplined grace like a true ballet dancer. Each turn, each kick was fluid, precise, and full of emotion. He danced as if the rain were his stage lights, and every drop a round of applause. Ethan could see a profound sadness hidden in the dance. Yet at the same time it radiated a fierce energy. This was not just a dance. It was a silent story. "He dances like an angel," Lily whispered, her eyes sparkling like stars. For the first time since the accident, Ethan saw that light in his daughter's eyes. Ethan rushed to push Lily's wheelchair out of the car, shielding her under the hospital's awning. The boy stopped instantly when he saw them, his large brown eyes full of wariness. "I'm sorry, sir," the boy stammered, backing away. "I wasn't bothering anyone. I'll leave right away." "Wait," Lily called, her voice stronger than ever. "You dance so beautifully. It's just like the butterfly dance my mom used to teach me." "My mom was a ballet dancer too," Leo said softly, his voice trembling with cold, but his eyes still full of pride. "She taught me that dancing is how we talk to God when we can't find the words." Ethan felt his heart clench. Those words, they were so familiar. As the boy hurriedly ran away in fear, Ethan stepped into the puddle where he had been dancing. A small object glittered there. It was a worn old locket. He opened it. A small yellowed photo showed a blonde woman and a much younger boy with the words "Leo and Mom, Christmas 2019" beneath it. But what made his blood run cold was the other photo, an old picture of himself and Clara Dawson, the first love he had lost 15 years ago. The past flooded Ethan's mind like a deluge. Clara, the talented but poor ballet dancer. Their passionate love had been forbidden by his own father, Lord Alistair Sterling, a powerful and prejudiced man. He had said that Clara was not in the same class as the Sterlings. Ethan, in his 20s, had not had the courage to defy his father. He had let her go with a broken heart and a promise to never look back. 6 months later, he received the news that Clara had died in a car accident. The pain and regret had been buried within him for 15 years. But now this locket was revealing an entirely different truth. Ethan couldn't sleep that night. The locket lay in his hand, cold, but burning his soul. Every memory with Clara came back in slow motion. Her laughter at the small cafe, their secret dates, and the look of pain in her eyes as they said goodbye. He had always believed he had lost her forever. But if she was alive, if that boy was her son, and his, then he had been living a lie for the past 15 years. At dawn the next day, Ethan made a decision. He called Ben Carter, an old friend who was now a talented private investigator. "Ben, I need you to look into a case. An old case, a very old one." Ethan's voice was shaky but resolute. "The name is Clara Dawson. She was supposedly killed in a car accident 8 years ago. I need to know if she's really dead." Ben, hearing the anxiety in his friend's voice, only asked, "Are you sure this sounds very sensitive?" Ethan replied with finality, "I don't care. I need the truth. And there's a boy named Leo who lives near Sacred Heart Children's Hospital. Find every piece of information about him." After hanging up, Ethan got in his car and drove straight to the neighborhood where Leo had disappeared. He found the boy in a small alley, carefully folding a cardboard box into a shelter. Leo's face no longer held the innocence of a child, but the resilience and wariness of someone who had to fend for himself. Ethan approached, holding a bag of hot food. "Hi, Leo," he said gently, letting the boy see that his hands held no threat. Leo flinched, his eyes wide, ready to run at any moment. What are you doing here? Did you come to call the police?" Ethan knelt down, looking directly into the boy's eyes. "No. Lily wants to see you again. She wants you to come have breakfast with us." Leo looked at Ethan with suspicion. He was all too familiar with the empty promises of adults. "Rich people don't eat breakfast with street kids. What do you want from me?" Leo asked, his voice small but determined. The words were a dagger to Ethan's heart. He realized the premature maturity and deep-seated fear that had taken root in the boy's soul. "I just want to see Lily smile," Ethan said, his voice surprisingly sincere. "For over 6 months, she hasn't smiled once. But yesterday, when she saw you, she smiled. You did something that all my money couldn't do." Leo fell silent, looking into the man's genuine eyes. He felt the desperation and loneliness hidden within them, just like the sadness he always kept hidden. He looked over at Lily, who was watching them from a distance in her wheelchair. She raised her hand and waved, a faint smile on her lips. Leo hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "I'll come," he said. "But if you call anyone in uniform, I'll run so fast. I know places they can't find me." Ethan let out a sigh of relief. He held out his hand, and for the first time in his life, Leo took the warm hand of a stranger, stepping into a world he had never dared to dream of. Ethan's Mercedes glided along the highway, but the atmosphere inside the car was taut. Leo sat huddled in the back seat, his body tensed towards the car door, his small hand resting lightly on the handle, ready to open it and run at any moment. His eyes darted to Ethan through the rearview mirror, full of scrutiny and suspicion. Lily's illness had made Ethan more sensitive to others' emotions. He could feel Leo's overwhelming fear, his forced resilience, and a heart that had gone through too much pain. "There's no one here but me and Lily, Leo," Ethan said, his voice gentle, trying to soothe the boy. "There are still a lot of grown-ups," Leo muttered, not turning his face. Ethan said nothing more. He understood that trust was not something that could be bought with words. It had to be proven with actions. Only Lily, sitting next to Ethan, seemed oblivious to the heavy atmosphere. She was looking at Leo with a slight smile, as if she had found a companion for her lonely days. When the car passed through the electronic gate and stopped in front of Ethan's Tudor-style mansion, Leo was stunned. He stared at the massive building with its perfectly manicured gardens and sparkling fountains. You live here?" the boy whispered. His voice was not one of admiration, but of horror. He felt like a sparrow that had been thrown into an eagle's nest. "It's just a house," Ethan said once again, trying to make things seem normal. "What's special are the people who live in it." That night, after making sure Lily was asleep, Ethan went to the guest room. Leo was lying on the vast bed, still clutching his old backpack like a good luck charm. In Leo's world, everything could be taken away at any moment. Only his backpack, holding his memories and a few essential items, was truly his own. Ethan looked at the boy, a strange feeling swelling within him. He had spent 15 years living a lie, and now that truth was sleeping right under his roof. He returned to his study, taking out the old locket. The dim light from the desk lamp shone on the photo of Clara and Leo, then on the photo of him and Clara. Her face, every line on the boy's face, was irrefutable evidence. It was too late to save his love with Clara, but it wasn't too late to find his son and bring him home. Ethan knew the road ahead would be full of thorns and challenges, but he also knew that this time he wouldn't let love and family slip away again. "My son," Ethan whispered, clutching the locket in his hand. The next morning, Leo woke up in a completely foreign world. The large room had a soft, velvet-like bed, a warm comforter, and a gentle sunlight streaming through the window. It was a staggering contrast to the cold alleys and cardboard boxes he was used to. Even so, driven by his deep-seated survival instincts, Leo clutched his old backpack tightly, wary of every sound. He was so accustomed to having to leave at a moment's notice that this sense of security felt terrifying. When Leo emerged from his room, he found Lily waiting in the hallway, her face beaming. "Leo, you're up," Lily said, steering her wheelchair closer. "I told Dad to buy all your favorite breakfast foods, but I didn't know what you liked, so I told him to buy everything." For the first time since meeting Ethan, Leo truly smiled. It wasn't a timid smile, but a genuine, radiant one that brightened his entire face. The usual look of resilience and caution vanished, replaced by surprise and a touch of emotion. He felt as if he was being welcomed into a world he had never dared to dream of. At the breakfast table laden with an array of dishes, Ethan watched the two children. Lily and Leo conversed naturally without any distance between them. Lily talked about the accident, her physical therapy sessions, and her dream of dancing again. She spoke with a surprising innocence and maturity. In turn, Leo shared stories of life on the streets, which gas station had the cleanest bathroom, which restaurants threw away the best food, and how to stay warm on a rainy night. He recounted everything matter-of-factly like a survival expert. "Where is your family, Leo?" Lily asked bluntly, with the innocence only a child possesses. Leo's face darkened and his smile disappeared. "Mom got sick," he whispered, sick in the head. "Sometimes she would forget everything, even who I was. One day she forgot too much, so much that she couldn't find her way home anymore." A cold, sharp feeling like a knife cut through Ethan's heart. He took a deep breath. "What was your mother's name, Leo?" he asked, his voice trembling. Leo hesitated, looking between Ethan and Lily, then answered softly, Clara Dawson. She used to be a ballet dancer before I was born." The fork in Ethan's hand clattered to the table, the cold sound echoing through the room. The truth was confirmed. In the following days, Leo became an indispensable part of the Sterling household. Ethan had convinced the boy to stay temporarily, although Leo still kept his backpack close and checked the window locks every night. Ethan was amazed by Lily's miraculous transformation. His daughter, who had once lived in silence, now laughed, told stories, and insisted that Leo teach her to dance. The house, once cold and empty, was now filled with the sound of children's laughter. "It's about your arms and your emotions," Leo patiently explained, guiding Lily on how to move her arms gracefully from her wheelchair. "Dancing isn't done with your feet. It's done with your heart. Your mom said angels don't have feet, but they are the best dancers in heaven." Ethan watched silently, a mix of happiness and pain welling up inside him. He realized how many precious years he had missed. Leo, despite his young age, had carried such a heavy burden. To unravel the past, Ethan met with Mrs. Chen, the owner of a Chinese restaurant near the old market. She was a kind woman who had witnessed Clara and Leo's life. "The boy is very good," she said, her hands deftly wrapping wontons. "His mother brought him here 2 years ago. She was very frail, very sad. Her memory was fading. Sometimes she looked at the boy like a stranger. It was heartbreaking to see that child trying to help his mom remember him." Mrs. Chen's words were a fresh wound to Ethan's heart. He then went to see Dr. Evelyn Reed, the director of Sacred Heart Hospital, where Clara had been treated. With a reluctant demeanor, the doctor opened Clara Bennett's file, now renamed Clara Johnson. "She was admitted 18 months ago with severe early-onset amnesia," Dr. Reed said. "She constantly asked for a man named Robert, saying she needed to find him before she forgot everything important. She said, 'Robert needs to know about the boy, and I have to tell him the truth before it's too late.'" Ethan's pain peaked when Dr. Reed handed him a folder. Clara Bennett passed away 6 months ago. In her final weeks, she still kept asking about her little dancer and the man named Robert. Along with the medical records, Dr. Reed also gave Ethan an envelope full of Clara's sketches. They were detailed drawings of a boy dancing a man with familiar features and a girl in a wheelchair. Clara's handwriting at the bottom of one sketch made Ethan tremble. "Robert will understand. Robert will take care of them both. Love always finds a way." Ethan couldn't believe his eyes. Clara had known about Lily, had drawn Lily months before Ethan brought his daughter here for treatment. When Ethan returned to his office, another envelope was waiting for him. It was the result of a DNA test Clara had taken in a final moment of lucidity. The results were undeniable. Leo was Ethan's biological son. Accompanying it was a handwritten letter from Clara. "To my dearest Robert," the letter began. "If you are reading these words, it means my memory is completely gone, and Leo has found you somehow. I always believed he would. He has so much of you in him. Leaving you was the hardest thing I've ever done, but I was so young and so proud. When I found out I was 3 months pregnant after leaving Boston, I wanted to call you 1,000 times. But your mother made it clear that I was never allowed to contact the Sterling family again. I thought you would be better off without us. I tried to raise our son alone, Robert. I tried my best, but this disease in my brain, it's taking everything away. There are days when I can't remember my son's name. There are days when I look at this beautiful and intelligent child like a stranger. It's killing me little by little, and it's scaring him. But even when I forget everything, I still remember you. I remember the way you used to hold me when I was scared. I remember you made me believe that I was worthy of love. That's what Leo needs now. Someone to show him he's worthy of love. Someone to help him dance again. Leo has taken care of me for 2 years, Robert. 2 years. He's only 7, but he's had to be a parent while I was a child. He deserves so much more. I know this is unfair to reveal this truth after so many years, but he is your son, and he needs you. And there's one more thing, something I need you to know. The little girl in my dreams, the one I keep drawing, she has a connection to Leo. To you. She needs him as much as he needs her. Don't ask me how I know this. Call it a mother's intuition or the ramblings of a sick mind. But believe it. Please take care of our son, Robert. Help him remember that he is worthy of love. And tell him that his mom loved him very much, even when she couldn't remember his name. Ethan buried his face in his hands, hot tears rolling down his cheeks. He had lost 15 years, a love and a son because of lies and prejudice. Ethan walked toward the newly installed ballroom, his mind still reeling from Clara's letter and the DNA results. Regret, pain, and a foolish happiness overwhelmed him. He had accidentally found his son. He had been given a second chance. Inside the room, Lily and Leo were engrossed in their own dance. Leo, a boy who once huddled in fear, was now dancing with all the freedom and passion he had. He moved gently around Lily's wheelchair, gracefully swaying his arms, guiding Lily's fluid movements. Both of them were smiling, a perfect picture of healing and joy. "Dad," Lily called out when she saw him. "Leo is teaching me the butterfly dance. He says it's for those who can't fly but still want to be beautiful." Leo looked up, his eyes still holding a hint of caution. Ethan looked into those eyes, seeing Clara's reflection, his own resilience, and a fierce love. "Leo, Lily," Ethan said, his voice choked with emotion. I have something important to tell you both." Immediately, Leo stiffened, every muscle tensing, the familiar wary look returning. Are you kicking me out?" he asked, his eyes full of fear. Ethan knelt down, reaching out his hand, gently taking Leo's. "No, son. I will never kick you out again." The word son rang like a thunderclap. Leo's eyes widened, his small face filled with shock. What did you say? Son?" Ethan repeated, tears beginning to fall. "Your mother and I once loved each other very much. I once loved her more than anything in the world. Before you were born, your mother wrote a letter, and she wants me to tell you that you are my son. You are my biological son." "You mean you're my dad?" Leo gasped, his voice so shaky it was barely audible. "My real dad? Yes," Ethan said, crying, "and I'm so sorry I let you live without me for so long. Your mother thought she was protecting us, but she was wrong." Lily screamed with joy. "I knew it! I told you we were meant to be together. I told you." But Leo just stood still. A single tear rolled down his cheek, then another. "If you're my dad, why didn't you come find me when Mom was sick?" Leo's question was a dagger straight to Ethan's heart. "Because I never knew you existed," Ethan replied, his tears streaming down. "I'm so sorry. I was deceived." The boy looked at Ethan, his large eyes full of pain and longing. "But you want me now, even though I'm just a street kid and I have nothing?" Ethan pulled Leo into a tight embrace. For the first time, he felt his son's small and frail body. "Leo, you aren't just anything," he whispered. "You are my son, Lily's brother, and the most important thing to have ever come into this family." Leo buried his face in Ethan's shoulder, and for the first time in years, he didn't cry out of fear or sorrow, but out of relief, love, and finally being home. "Dad," he whispered. And that one word changed everything. 3 weeks later, life at the Sterling mansion had found a new rhythm. Leo was learning to trust that this wasn't a dream, that he wouldn't wake up one morning to find himself back in the cold alley. Lily was growing stronger and happier every day, constantly telling Ethan about the new dances Leo was choreographing. But that peace was about to be shattered. Julian Sterling, Ethan's ambitious cousin, had long harbored resentment, and envy over Ethan's inheritance. He had secretly been monitoring Ethan and looking for a way to overthrow him. Julian, with his gambling debts and failed investments, was desperate to seize control of Mitchell Enterprises. He had manipulated Susan, Ethan's secretary, by promising her a better position and a hefty bonus. The betrayal was silent. Julian had obtained photos, audio recordings, and personal information about Leo about his history as a homeless child. He used this information to file a false report with Child Protective Services. That afternoon, while Ethan was in his study, the doorbell rang. The housekeeper announced that a woman named Charlotte Hayes from Child Protective Services was there to see him. A cold dread settled in Ethan's heart. "Don't let the children see," he instructed the housekeeper. But it was too late. "Dad?" Lily's voice called out anxiously. "Leo is hiding in the closet. He says there are people who come to take children away." Charlotte Hayes was a stern, cold woman with the weary expression of someone who had witnessed too much human suffering. "Mr. Mitchell," she said without preamble, "we've received a report that you are harboring an undocumented minor. We need to speak with the boy." "Leo is my son," Ethan said, his voice firm. "Biology doesn't grant legal custody," Hayes replied icily. "The child has been living on the streets for months. There are procedures investigations that must be carried out." From upstairs, Lily's voice rang out full of despair. "Leo, don't hide. Dad won't let them take you." But Leo's reply was filled with pain. "Yes, he will. They always do." The agony in his son's voice shattered Ethan's heart. He knew this was not just a regular investigation. Someone was behind this, and they had used his own son as a weapon. Ethan held Lily close, his heart breaking as he saw the tears rolling down his daughter's cheeks. "Dad, what should I do?" she sobbed. "Leo is gone. He said you wouldn't be able to protect him." "I'll bring him back," Ethan whispered, his voice full of determination. "I promise you, no one can take your brother away." Just then his phone vibrated. His mother's number, Eleanor Sterling, appeared on the screen. Ethan hesitated for a moment, then answered. In this moment, he only wanted to unleash his anger on the person who had destroyed his life. "You know, don't you?" Eleanor's voice on the other end was trembling with desperation. "Everything about your father. About Clara." Ethan's anger erupted like a volcano. "I know," he growled. "I know he faked Clara's death and left my son to live on the streets. But he's dead now, Mom, and now they've taken Leo. Do you know where they've taken my son?" "Ethan, listen to me," Eleanor screamed, her voice filled with anguish. "That's not all there is to it. I helped your father orchestrate everything. I believed it was the best way to protect our family's honor. I was wrong, Ethan. I was horribly wrong." Eleanor's confession was a dagger to her own conscience. She had spent a lifetime preserving the family's perfect image, and now she had to admit she was complicit in a terrible crime. Eleanor's admission left Ethan speechless. He no longer knew whether to be angry or pity his mother. "You knew about Leo?" he asked, his voice breaking. "You knew my son was living on the streets, and you did nothing?" "No. I didn't know about the child at first," Eleanor said, her voice catching. "William, your father, said Clara was just trying to trap you with a lie. By the time I knew Leo was real, things had gone too far. William said that if the truth came out, it would ruin everything. But Ethan, there's something else. The person who reported you to Child Protective Services wasn't a random person. It's Julian, your cousin. He secretly collected all the information, exploiting Susan's trust to set up a perfect scenario. He did all this to destroy your reputation and seize control of the company after your father's death. Ethan's blood ran cold. Julian wasn't just a competitor. He was a monster who had used his own son as a weapon to achieve his goals. "Where did they take Leo?" Ethan asked, his voice cold and resolute. "Riverside Children's Home on the other side of the city," Eleanor replied. "But you can't just storm in there. They have a legal order. If you do anything impulsive, you'll lose every chance to get him back." "So what do I do now?" "We fight," Eleanor said, her voice suddenly strong. "We tell the truth. I will come forward and testify. I will expose all of Julian's schemes, and we will bring our grandson home." Ethan hung up the phone, looking at Lily's tear-streaked face. The anger and pain had turned into a steely resolve. The real battle had just begun. Ethan's study had been transformed into an emergency war room. 3 of Seattle's top family lawyers were huddled around the conference table, legal documents spread across every surface. Ethan's anger had cooled, replaced by steely focus and determination. He was no longer a man besieged by pain and the past. Now, he was a warrior. Marcus Webb, Ethan's head of security, entered the room with a grave expression. "Sir, I've found the source of the leak," he said. "It was Susan, your personal assistant. She's been providing Julian with all the information for months. Call logs, appointment schedules, and even private conversations she overheard. He promised her a promotion and a hefty bonus." The betrayal by Susan, who had worked for him for 5 years, was a blow to Ethan's heart. But this was not the time to falter. His lead lawyer, Sarah Weinstein, looked up from a pile of files. "This is actually good news, Ethan. If we can prove that Julian orchestrated this entire affair through fraudulent means, we can petition for an emergency hearing to reverse the guardianship order." Suddenly, Ethan's phone rang. It was Dr. Evelyn Reed from Sacred Heart Hospital. "Hello, Mr. Mitchell. I'm calling about a strange matter." Her voice was filled with concern. "A man claiming to be a legal investigator came here requesting access to Clara Bennett's medical records. He had what looked like valid papers, but his attitude was very suspicious. I wanted to double-check with you before providing anything." Ethan gritted his teeth. Julian didn't just want to separate Leo from him. He wanted to dig up Clara's past illness to use in court. "Dr. Reed, please don't give anything to anyone except my lawyers. And thank you so much." After hanging up, Ethan turned to his legal team. "We will go on the offensive. Julian thinks he can manipulate the system and destroy my family. He is wrong." But what pained Ethan the most was not Julian's conspiracy, but the condition of his 2 children. Marcus reported that Leo was not doing well. The boy refused to eat, wouldn't talk to the counselors, and just sat by the window, looking out as if he were waiting. At home, Lily was the same. She refused to eat and wouldn't leave her room, asking only one question: "When is Leo coming home, Dad?" Hearing those words, the determination in Ethan's heart burned even brighter. "We have an emergency hearing tomorrow morning," Sarah said. "But you need to be prepared. The other side will attack your character, your fitness as a father, and even your relationship with Lily. They will make it ugly." Ethan nodded. "Let them. I lost 15 years with my son because of my family's lies. I won't lose another day." The courtroom of the King County Family Court was packed. The air was thick with tension as Judge Elizabeth Harper announced the start of the emergency hearing. Ethan sat at the plaintiff's table with his legal team, his eyes resolute. Behind him in the audience, Julian Sterling sat with a smug expression, occasionally giving Ethan a mocking glance. Across the aisle, Leo sat between 2 social workers looking incredibly small in ill-fitting clothes. When his eyes met Ethan's, his small face contorted with both hope and fear. He silently mouthed, "Dad," and Ethan had to clench the edge of the table to keep himself from running to hug his son. Julian's lawyer began, "Your Honor, Mr. Ethan Sterling is clearly unfit to care for this child. He abandoned the boy for 8 years. Objection. Lawyer Sarah Weinstein stood up. Your Honor, we have evidence that Mr. Julian Sterling orchestrated this entire case through fraudulent means for personal gain. Sarah's unexpected announcement caused a stir in the courtroom. Julian's face went pale, and he whispered urgently to his lawyer. Sarah activated the courtroom's projection system. An audio recording played clear and full of malice. Keep funneling me information about the kid. If we can make Ethan look like an unstable father, the board will have no choice but to remove him as CEO. The entire room was in shock. Leo, though not understanding everything, felt the horror in those words. Sarah continued presenting bank documents showing payments from Julian to a personal account belonging to a Charlotte Hayes, coinciding with the timing of the false Child Protective Services reports. The courtroom erupted into noise. Judge Harper banged her gavel, her face filled with fury. The decisive blow came from Eleanor Sterling. She walked to the witness stand with the dignity of a matriarch, but her trembling hands betrayed her inner turmoil. Your Honor, she said, 30 years ago, my husband and I made a terrible decision. We discovered that my son had a child with a woman we deemed unsuitable for the family. Instead of supporting them, we orchestrated a sophisticated deception. Eleanor's confession, a woman who had spent a lifetime preserving the family's honor, silenced the courtroom completely. She confessed everything, faking Clara's death, imprisoning her under a false identity, and leaving Leo to grow up in poverty. Your Honor, I also testify that my grandnephew Julian was aware of these truths and has used them to manipulate this case for his financial benefit. Julian leapt to his feet. She's lying. She's old and senile. But Judge Harper immediately ordered him to sit down. Marcus Webb then presented evidence of Julian's massive gambling debts, completely exposing his motives. Judge Harper considered all the evidence in silence. Finally, she spoke. In my 30 years on this bench, I have rarely seen a case with such a clear manipulation of the system and exploitation of a child. The guardianship order for Thomas Mitchell is hereby canceled effective immediately. Leo's eyes widened. For a moment, he couldn't believe what he was hearing. He jumped up and ran as fast as he could toward Ethan. Father and son embraced tightly, both of them crying with relief. Dad, you came, Leo whispered. I knew it. I knew you would come. I will always come for you. Ethan promised, his voice choked with emotion. Always. That evening, back at home, Ethan found Leo and Lily in the ballroom. Lily was in her wheelchair, and Leo was teaching her a new dance. The two moved in unison, creating a perfect harmony from their limitations. I've been practicing all week, Dad, Lily said proudly. Leo choreographed it himself. He calls it the Phoenix Dance because even if we have broken wings, we can still fly. Ethan stood there watching his two children dance. His daughter couldn't walk, and his son had once been homeless. But together, they had created a dance filled with hope and life. He finally understood what Clara had meant in her last letter. True love really does find a way. Leo broke away from the dance, walking to Ethan and taking his hand with absolute trust. Dad, he said softly, do you think Mom is watching us? Ethan knelt down, looking into Leo's eyes that held Clara's warmth and his own determination. I think she's been watching us all along, son. I think she's the reason we found each other. And I think she's happy, Lily said, steering her wheelchair closer, completing their family circle. As Ethan stood with his children, he finally understood the true meaning of wealth. It wasn't the billions of dollars or the powerful Sterling Corporation. It was this moment, a son who danced with angels, a daughter who refused to let anything dim her light, and a second chance to be the father they both deserved. Outside, the city of Seattle sparkled with nighttime lights. But inside Ethan's house, 3 hearts beat as one. A family once broken by pride and fear had now been mended by love and a resolve to never let go of each other again.